started on an ordinary Tuesday morning, one like any other. I kissed my wife, Sarah, goodbye and headed off to work. She was her usual radiant self, her laughter still echoing in my ears as I walked out the door. Little did I know that by the end of that day, my world would come crashing down in ways I could have never imagined. We lived in a cozy suburban home, complete with all the trappings of a life we had worked so hard to build. One of the more recent additions was a state-of-the-art home surveillance system. It wasn't because we lived in a dangerous neighborhood, but rather for peace of mind. With frequent business trips and long hours at work, I wanted to ensure Sarah was always safe. That particular day, a nagging feeling kept gnawing at me. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something felt off. I had left the house around 9 a.m. for a client meeting, and by noon, I couldn't shake the unease. So, during my lunch break, I decided to check the live feed from the cameras. First, everything seemed normal. Sarah was in the kitchen, sipping her morning coffee and scrolling on her phone. But then, two familiar faces appeared on the screen. Dan and Eric, my best friends since college. They had been over countless times, and Sarah always welcomed them warmly. Seeing them there wasn't unusual, but their presence at that hour, without my knowledge, was peculiar. The unease grew as I watched them enter. Sarah's expression changed from surprise to slight discomfort. The microphones picked up their casual chatter, at first nothing alarming, but as the minutes ticked by, their demeanor shifted. Dan leaned in too close, and Eric's hand brushed against Sarah's arm in a way that was far from friendly. My heart pounded as I watched the scene unfold. Sarah's nervous laughter filled the room as she tried to maintain composure, but her discomfort was palpable. Dan's tone became suggestive, his words dripping with insinuations. Eric followed suit, his actions emboldened by Dan's audacity. Sarah's attempts to deflect their advances were evident, but their persistence was relentless. I felt paralyzed, trapped behind the screen, watching helplessly as my two closest friends crossed a line I never thought they were capable of. They began touching her, their actions escalating despite her protests. Tears streamed down her face, and my fury boiled over. I've never felt so powerless in my life. In that moment, I knew I had to act. My hands trembled as I called the police, providing them with every detail I could muster. They assured me they'd dispatch a unit immediately. My next call was to Sarah. Her voice cracked with fear as she picked up, and I told her to leave the house immediately, that help was on the way. Within minutes, the police arrived, their sirens wailing as they stormed the house. Dan and Eric were caught off guard, their smug confidence replaced with panic. They were arrested on the spot, and Sarah was escorted to safety. Watching it all unfold through the cameras was surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I rushed home as soon as I could, my thoughts racing. When I finally saw Sarah, she collapsed into my arms, her body shaking with sobs. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, as if any of this was her fault. My heart broke as I reassured her, vowing to protect her at all costs. The betrayal cut deep. Dan and Eric had been like brothers to me, and their actions shattered any trust one had in them. They were charged with assault, and the evidence from the cameras left no room for doubt. Justice, however, felt like a hollow victory. In the days that followed, Sarah and I leaned on each other to navigate the aftermath. Therapy sessions became a lifeline, helping us process the trauma and rebuild our sense of safety. The surveillance system, once a source of security, now served as a haunting reminder of that day. Looking back, I've often wondered if I could have prevented it. The what-ifs plagued my mind, but one thing remains certain. Sarah's courage in the face of such an ordeal was nothing short of heroic. Together, we've started to heal, piece by piece, knowing that trust and love can endure even the darkest of times. As for Dan and Eric, they're nothing more than ghosts of a past I've chosen to leave behind. The bond we once shared is now a painful memory, a reminder that even those closest to us can harbor darkness we may never see coming. But amidst the pain, there's a newfound strength in our relationship. a resilience forged in the fires of betrayal and survival.